Over the years, lots of people have tried to make local TV work, but in the end, most of them failed. It wasn't because audiences aren't interested. They've always had a keen appetite for truly local TV content. They failed for other reasons. First, they were doing it in analogue. That meant just one channel per frequency. People had to manually tune in old-fashioned sets to find a new channel. Remember twisting the knobs or trying to use a newfangled remote control? The local channel was isolated, often looked like it was snowing, and many viewers couldn't find it. But secondly, they were trying to sell advertising without recognised viewing figures. That meant that they were trying to sell a commodity that couldn't be quantified and therefore valued. And finally, there was the simple cost of making television. In the past, if you wanted to set up an edit suite to make programmes, complete with tape decks and some decent graphics capability, you wouldn't have had much change from £100,000. Even in the year 2000, that was still true. But digital switchover really changes the picture. And everyone knows that we now have the ability to create huge numbers of channels in the same bandwidth. The government saw this as another opportunity for a bash at local TV. The cost of cameras and editing kit has dropped dramatically. Today, department stores are selling laptops and editing software for around £600. And these systems have an editing capability that the suites of a decade ago could not have dreamed of. Whilst the cost of being a programme maker dropped, there's still a massive financial barrier to entry. The costs of being a programme broadcaster are still so high as to make it simply unsustainable for smaller channels. Masts, antenna, national data networks, transmitters, these are major and complex investments. The government acknowledged this and worked with the BBC to allocate up to £40 million to local TV during the process of digital switchover. £25 million was to build the local TV multiplex and the infrastructure. So, what infrastructure would local TV need? Well, each of these stations needs to be connected to their transmitter. So we could just put lines in between the studio and the transmitter. Job done. Well, no. Digital television is not just about delivering a signal. It's about complex data management. The system is run by data, not just made up of video. Every Freeview television needs to know which stream of data is which, and each multiplex or frequency carries the data related to every other channel on Freeview. So yes, every channel also needs to be connected to a central collator to get that data. At each site you need a box to receive that data and insert it into the broadcast. Then the stations would need another link to the BBC if they want to take advantage of the offer the BBC has made to acquire programming. Then they would need to connect to networks that deliver TV adverts. And each station would need a playout system, as well as software to schedule their programmes and to deliver electronic programme guide data to the central collator. Imagine this, replicated by every local TV channel. The number of lines and connections and technical equipment being managed in multiple locations is huge. A very expensive cobweb. And all of those costs would have to be paid for by the local television operators out of their revenues. But it gets worse. At each of these transmission sites, there's the capacity to broadcast not one, but 3 new channels. To use that additional capacity, connections have to be made between every transmitter site and the broadcasters that buy the capacity. This model means multiplexers and EPG data managers and encoders and decoders at dozens of sites up and down the UK. And who would maintain those? Who would fix them? And who would pay for and manage the lines? That's where the idea for Comux came from. We thought of another way to do this. We proposed creating one network operations centre to manage all of the back-office transmission services on behalf of the local TV channels. We said we would build one centre in Birmingham to house the data, scheduling and playout systems. A cost-efficient centre with one connection to the BBC. one connection to the advertising sales houses, one connection to the central collator, and the other 2 channels can be delivered once to Birmingham. As each local TV channel launches, all the new owner has to do is connect to the Comux Operations Centre, and we deliver the channels to the right transmitters. If you can make local television programmes and find a business model to commercialise your channel, we can do the rest. The cost savings are huge, and if a channel fails and another launches to take its place, they don't have to find many thousands of pounds to build new broadcast infrastructure. But we also saw another opportunity. Remember, there's room for 3 channels. Well, with one used for local TV, we proposed that the other 2 channels be sold commercially, with the proceeds used to pay for running the network centre. So, the Comux model creates revenue to help underpin local TV. Making local TV work was never going to be easy, but our hope is that by ensuring that the physical cost of broadcasting is no longer a barrier, Comux will help to make the whole project succeed, creating a network of truly local TV stations across the UK.